After three unique circuits that open things up to a more unusual result, we return to more traditional fare. In fact, Mugello's sweeping layout should prove a pretty fitting combination for this car. Let's see if it becomes business as usual as we get ready to watch round 9 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legend Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Roush Racing driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes, our director, Daniel Costello, and he's being assisted by Christian Duploy while using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Nestled in picturesque settings, this Italian track is hard not to be charmed by. Let's get a closer look at it with our track guide. Welcome to Autodromo Internazionale del Mugello. Only an hour north of Florence and owned by motorsport royalty Ferrari, this is a popular Italian track. With a short layout consisting of 7 turns and the GP layout having 15, the full length runs about 3¼ miles, or 5¼ kilometers. It weaves through the Italian hills with pretty much nothing but long, sweeping corners. It makes for spectacular views for spectators and drivers, but difficulty in nailing overtakes. The main spot for that will be into the first corner of San Donato. From there, a climb up through a series of corners that switch back and forth eventually plunges down through Casanova and Savelli. This is where speeds pick up greatly, and the compression up through the first Arrabbiata brings you to the blind crest of the second. Things finally slow back down just a bit with 2 final hairpins at Corientaio and Buccini. Make sure you get the exit right on that last one. It's more than a kilometer run down the main straight. This track was built in 1973, but has seen continual improvements and has hosted the Italian Grand Prix for motorcycles for many decades. In recent times, it finally saw an official round of the Formula One Championship in 2020. With the virtual version now arriving on iRacing, fans from around the globe can experience this breathtaking romp around the Italian countryside. Well, this is a track that I honestly only knew due to a couple other sims, but once F1 came back here, Joey, it kind of blew up a bit.
It is a very popular track out there in Italy and Mugello circuit, like we've seen several times in the past. It is a good racing circuit with that huge monster front straightaway, and it also has quite a bit of elevation throughout this entire place. There you go, 15 turns in length. First opened in 1974, 3.25 miles in total. There is some good elevation, and you see how long that front straightaway is that I was mentioning. Turn number 1, San Donato, probably your best passing opportunity, but trust me, it is a relatively long corner that feeds into turns 2 and 3. I think that these switchback sections between 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and even up at the top of the hill, turns 10 and 11, they all kind of race very similar. The elevation really comes into play through turn 6 and then also through the 2 Arrabbiata corners, turns 8 and 9, and then also that turn number 15, that very, very final corner is a long sweeping left-hander that starts at the top of the hill, and you got to get to the gas first without running out of track on driver's right to get that run down that monster front straightaway.
Certainly going to make a difference, I imagine, in the battles we'll see today down into turn 1. Now, for the battle for the championship, this is an interesting one because you're going to see Valenteus is leading, and it's not by much because he had a poor race back at Knock Hill, only scoring 29 points. Now, this is with drop weeks. If we take away the drop weeks and go on total points, Mick Claridge is actually leading, which is odd considering Valenteus has won most of the races, but Mick has just been so darn consistent, him taking his first win. He's actually got a good shot this season. Behind them, you've got Nieva and Hisada along with Verbruggen all trying to fight for third position, essentially. They've been swapping out on who's up towards the top lately, with Verbruggen being kind of the new surprise, showing he's got speed this season. And a tie down for 7th between Kaki and Seb Tixier. But Seb has been on a bit of an on and off season, shall we say, today. So we'll see if today's a good one or not for him. Let's also take a look at the F2 standings, which is the AM Championship.
And right now, it is Jem Matson leading the way. You see here 29 points over Jonathan Jourdain. But then that battle for second place, very, very close. Only about 3 points separating Jonathan from Tobias Harnvey. A little bit of a gap back there to what is 4th place of Mitch Heller. And Roberto Pingrazzi rounding out that top 5. You see how close this group is right here, though, between Roberto, Alan Graham, Mats Linden, Tomas Tuba, Thomas Willershausen, and even consider Ben Summers in that. That's about 5 or 6 drivers, all separated only by about 19 points apiece.
Then let's not forget about the Nations Cup. So this is by country that they compete. United Kingdom at the top right now. Again, Mick really serving up incredible consistency. Only been off the podium a couple times this season. Spain, the one giving the chase on them, with Nieva kind of bringing his consistency with a few of his friends also in there. And then Valenteus, the only one really holding the flag up for Lithuania, as them falling to third in recent rounds. From there, it gets very tight. The United States, Japan, Netherlands, Singapore, and Italy very much separated by only about 30 points between them right now. So that's going to be a fun one to watch as this season goes on. But let's take a look at this race specifically. Joey, what's the race details?
We're going to be doing 18 laps around this place for round 9 of 12 in the season, about 3/4 of the way through here. It is an open setup, just like how all of the vintage series are in the official league. So that means you got to tweak and tune on this car. Make sure it is perfectly set up for each individual track every single week. No spare car. That means if you pick up any damage by running into a competitor, jumping over curbs, hitting a guardrail, whatever it may be, you're going to have to suffer the consequences and live with it out there on the racetrack. A drive-through penalty at 17 incident points, disqualification at 25 incident points. There's plenty of runoff here at this Mugello circuit, so you can go off on driver's exit. You can actually avoid incidents on the apex side of things too. There's lots of runoff to drive off track here.
Well, they are in the midst of qualifying with about 3 minutes left to go. It does take a bit to get around this place. We're talking a minute 50 for most of the drivers. So we're still waiting on about half the field to set their first lap. Oye Zamaloa right now with the quickest of them. Andres Valenteus still looking for his first one. Now, he started from the back, we think intentionally, back at Knock Hill, looking for a little bit of fun. And that wound up biting him, as impressive as his battle crew was, Joey. I don't think we'll see the same from him today.
Probably not. This racetrack, just in nature, is so much larger that, especially on the opening lap, call it maybe even the opening few laps, that if you lose a lot of track position, the distance that you have to gain to go back up there and catch the front pack, it can be quite huge. So I think that we will see Andreas up there qualifying the car. Right now, provisionally, it's Oye on top of the board. A 1:49.106 is the time to chase.
Indeed, and Nieva behind him by almost half a second, actually, so massively far behind. Zamaloa's second lap, 48.9. He goes even faster. Now it's 0.6 between himself and Nicola Kaki, who overtakes that second position. Now his Sada goes faster on his second lap. And Andres Valenteus, on the first time through, is the quickest of anybody by 0.02 of a second. Second lap seems to be quicker for a lot of drivers, so this could be interesting to see how far ahead he can get.
This could spell bad news bears for everybody else. Usually when this number 1 car is on pole position, he drives away from the rest of the field, and to see that lap time out of the very, very first lap, knowing that he's going to have a little bit more temperature, a little bit more speed in the car here on lap number 2, it'll be interesting to see how fast he really goes.
Absolutely, and we do have the ability to track his progress. Sometimes it can mislead us, but I'll be keeping an eye to see if he is able to go quicker than that 1:48.9. Just a couple drivers have been able to crack into that 1:48. Oye Zamaloa, I think the only other one so far in this qualifying session. But this is towards the end of the lap now for Valenteus as he comes back down the hill. You talked about the big changes in elevation around this circuit. This is not a car with downforce in it, so you'll feel it.
Lots of overcrests, diving down through steep hills throughout this circuit, like you were just mentioning, the elevation. I think this last switchback right here, turns 13 and 14, is actually a pretty fun section, and you'll see all the drivers all race long taking advantage of those apex curbs. Barney is out there watching. Just don't cut the apex too much and you'll be okay.
Where is Nick Claridge, though, in all of this? Because I'm trying to figure out where he wound up on the timing sheets as we see
Nowhere.
Valenteus. And Valenteus' second lap is faster to a 48.7, so Mick not putting anything in. Yeah, he's starting from the back.
And I do see that, at least on my timing and scoring, that he does have 3 laps registered, but no time on the board.
So I see in the chat, it says, got to slow down on lap 1, and using my brilliant brain didn't clear. Oh, no. So he is going to have a hard task. They've reversed roles as Mick was the one that was trying to lead last time. All right, let's go through the starting order. Valenteus on the pole with Zamaloa in the second. Togo Hisada starting in P2 or P3. Then you've got Kundalis in fourth and Jorge Nieva at P5. Row 3 sees Topi Kortaniemi to his outside. Glad to see him back once again. Nick Lakaki will be P7 with Leo Sequeiro 8th, Seb Tixier 9th, and Kevin Verbruggen only 10th today.
11th is Ove Trengrade with Bill Tyler lined up next to him in 12th. Raul Guardia in 13th. Gary Ho 14th. Laust Olsen 15th with Marco Salgado next to him in 16th. Tobias Harnvey 17th. Ricardo Martinez in 18th. Steve Morris 19th. And Matthew Maudsley in 20th.
Jan Steffen starts 21st, followed by Robert Plumley in 22nd. Then it's Alan Graham, P23, followed by Kurt Clapper, actually put in a lap in and starting 24th. Bjorn Ackerman, 25th for him, as George Maris will be 26th. And you've got Cam Porter in P27, followed by Mats Linden to his outside in 28th. Andre Bruno will start 29th, and Tim Porter is back, starting 30th.
31st is Fernando De La Fuente. Mauro Micheletti is going to be next to him in 32nd. Johannes Brouwer in 33rd. Jonathan Jourdain back here in 34th. Mick Claridge starting all the way back in 35th, the top of the qualifiers that did not set down a time. Then you got Jason Clapper in 36th, Rodriguez, Summers, Willershausen, and Don Peak rounding out the 40-car field.
Going to be a full one, that is for sure. I do like Bjorn Ackerman's note in the race chat. He says, don't cuddle the unicorn, as his paint schemes become a bit notorious around here. Let's hope that he doesn't see contact out there. Looks like the revs are now up as the lights get ready, and the green flag is out. Valenteus with a decent start off the line. Everybody chasing him down to the first corner. We got 3 wide behind him already. Things stack up for fourth. Kundalis round the outside with a monster start as they all now file into turn 1.
It's still 3 wide, and unfortunately the number 6 car just made a little bit of contact. That was Togo Hisada on the outside. Now he gets stacked up. He's one of those cars that looks like it's still 3 wide through what is turns 2 and 3. And now the number 7 car having problems getting spun around. That's Kevin Verbruggen.
And it's a giant pileup. Lots of cars unable to avoid. Those at the back able to slow down in time and creep by. Unfortunately, the rubbernecking they don't want at the start of this race.
It's just such a tough deal, especially on the exit of turn number 3 when you got 40 cars all barreling down right behind you. It's bound to happen if there's a track blockage. Here's Nick Lakaki in this white number 8 car with the lime green helmet.
That unicorn apparently a little too soft, because Bjorn Ackerman is our first retirement of the day, sadly. So already out of this race. Nick Lakaki up here in that 8th position, down a few from where he started, down 1 actually from where he started this race. And home soil, essentially, one of the few Italian tracks we have here on iRacing. Now they head back through the Biondetti sequence, very fast chicane.
You mentioned Nicola Cocky maybe losing a position or 2, but I'm looking at the one who slipped down the furthest here on this opening lap as we round turn number 15 for the first time. It is Togo Hisada, that car directly in front of Nicola Cocky. He's getting a nice run on Seb Tixier, but Togo slipped down 4 positions on the opening lap.
Watching Leo Sequeiro behind them, but I think we might get a change. Yeah, here we look at Togo Hisada. And he's managed to get side by side with Seb Tixier, who is defending, coming down into turn 1. Santanato will go to Seb, who will stay in 6th position. But now we're starting to see a bit of a train form behind him.
This is that area of the racetrack that we had that first lap incident. Seb Tixier is a kind of little shallow on that racing line. Here's the replay of the lap 1 incident. Let's see exactly what happens to Bjorn Ackerman. He's going to come around turn 3 right here, and I bet you he's going to have a parking lot right in front of him.
Yeah, couldn't do much. Hits the 15 hard. No wonder that car's out. And the 21 launches into the air. And that is race over immediately.
Turns out unicorns can fly, Joe.
I think that's a Pegasus, isn't it?
Same thing. Magical, mythical beast.
Coming back up to the top of the hill, checking back in with Togo.
It maybe not having the start of the season that we typically see out of them, and I think that this driver right here in the blue car with the orange stripe, Mr. Nieva, is kind of on that similar train. However, he has had a couple good results. He has been able to kind of turn it around in his favor the last few races. Here he is picking up the slipstream from Oye Zamaloa down the front straightaway, and he opts not to show the nose here in turn number 1. He wants to be a little bit closer before finally jumping on the brakes and trying to make that move for second.
Nieva is known for trying to race very smart and make the safe and secure move so that he gets to the finish. And to his credit, Valenteus is only about 1.3 seconds ahead, so he hasn't really run away from him too much. So I don't think he's in a hurry to try and get through. Let's check in on Mr. Excitement, Ove Trangrade, sandwiched between Hisada and Guardia. So this should be a fun little trio.
Togo's been kind of on the back foot to start this race. I had mentioned he was down 4 positions earlier. Well, guess what, Joe? He's now down 6 positions after he tried to pass Seb Tixier somewhere on the racetrack. He must have gotten all kind of balked up, and now Guardia, that number 12 car, almost into the back of Trangrade here. So definitely a stack up all behind this white and red number 6.
George Maris in a nice little fight. Not often you see side by side heading down through the Casanova and Savelli corners. Those are very fast drops downhill. Johannes Brouwer in 26 here in the number 34, trailing the pair of them in what is actually a very traditional Lotus livery. This was the first sponsored livery, the gold leaf version, which came, I believe, either in 69 or 70.
You learn something new every day, and I definitely learned that one. I don't know that these vintage liveries too well off the top of my head. I did enjoy when Seb Tixier, though, was making airplanes out there.
Yeah, he does a cool job of really translating with this car. Although, I mean, I guess most planes are just a cigar tube with some wings on the side, and this is a cigar tube, so it should translate.
And as we watch this battle, I just want to report something that happened out there at turn number 15. Unfortunately, the number 9 car, that's Arturas Kundalis, was having such a good start to this race, just made a little self-mistake, went out into the gravel, and lost several positions. Unfortunately, he's fallen all the way back down to 10th place now.
Already up in 11th behind Arturas Kundalis, another driver that was up towards the front and has lost a few in these last couple laps. Remember, he had that major launch off the line, was looking at taking 3rd away. Well, now he's just trying to stay within the top 10. Guardia giving him quite the hassle.
And you see Guardia just kind of hanging the tail out down that turn 6 Casanova corner. The elevation can definitely play an effect when you come to drive this racetrack. When you're diving it down the hill, you got to expect that rear end to step out a little bit. And we're going to get a replay from Fernando de la Fuente on the top of the screen here. I think this was from about a lap ago. See exactly what happened into the section of what is turn 10 and 11.
And I mean, those corners look like they shouldn't mean much, but I've always found the braking into there tricky. I think it's got a bit of a downhill. Maybe that's part of it.
Well, and I had mentioned kind of call them the switchbacks, right? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different switchbacks on this racetrack, and you can call them chicanes, you can call them little S sections. Either way, The ones on the front of the racetrack look very, very similar to each other, but they drive different. And the ones on the back of the racetrack actually look pretty similar, but they also drive completely different. You have to treat them as different corners everywhere you go.
Oh, something's happened to Guardia. He was in 11th. Now he's fallen down to 14th and might lose another one. That's Bill Tyler with a nice run coming down the main straight. But the inside is going to go to Raul once they get to the first corner. You can see it kind of weaves back and forth a little bit, this pitch straightaway and down into the braking. Yeah, he will be clear. So let's see on the replay in the upper right what happened to him.
I think this is turn 15. And that's spot on what happened to Arturas Kundelis just a lap or two before that. So maybe these drivers in that elevation that I was saying at turn 15, when you start that corner, it's right at the top of the hill here. And then as you dive down through it, you definitely have all the weight on the nose, maybe just catching some of the drivers out.
I know they can change the differential to help with the balance of the car in various parts of the corner. Of course, there's the brake balance, but I'm a bit surprised to see a number of drivers seem to lose the car, a loose car around here. I would think you'd want it really stable with how fast so many of these corners are.
I've always been taught that loose is fast, right? But you have to be able to manage it. You can't be too loose out there, otherwise you can't control the slides, just like what we've been seeing. But if you can't turn the car, then you can't stand on the gas either. So it's kind of that two-edge to the sword, right? You got to have it sharp on both sides, but you can't have it too sharp that you fall off.
All right, coming back to Cocky once again. Seb Tixier giving us his readout on the bottom, showing us his view, actually a double view this time, as he leads in 5th place. They've also got a little bit of a battle behind them. That looks like Sequeiro versus Hisada, so we'll have a duo coming down into turn 1. A pair of duos, rather, and to make that 3 of them. Jorge Nieva and Topi Cortiniemi. Nieva round the outside. Cortiniemi trying to see if he can sneak that one away. He's got the inside for the first turn, but like you said, here's the switchbacks. This is where it gets interesting.
Now it's just going to go left, right. Can Nieva do the over-under? That's what I'm expecting him to do, right up against the gearbox, probably smelling the exhaust fumes directly out of those exhaust ports, but Cortiniemi keeps on to that 3rd place, and let me tell you, how Jorge lost it was turn 15 again. It seems to be a danger area here on this race. He just got out wide. Thankfully, didn't get into the gravel, but that's how he lost that 3rd place.
Riding on board with the current reigning champion. Didn't look like at the start of the season he'd have a shot at trying to fight for the title, but like I said, he's still in 3rd. He's just a ways behind, and so far he hasn't been showing the speed, but he's keeping himself in touch, much like he is here with Topi. So can he get that podium position back? As big correction there coming down through 9.
Nieva just has to get back on the proverbial horse. He was doing a good job there in 3rd place and had a good gap to what is this white number 2 car, and now he finds himself chasing it. I just think kind of do the little mental reset. Don't worry about anybody back behind you. You got 2 seconds back there to Nicola Cocky, so no pressure out the mirrors. And if anything, Nicola's got to deal with a couple of cars himself. And here's Togo Asada trying to make his way back up. It's right on the back of Leo Sequeiro, looks like.
Yeah, going to be a little difficult to tell them apart as they've both got the Honda theme, but the red stripe down the side, that is Leo in front right now. And in fact, it's a great run by Togo Asada. These cars put off more of a slipstream than you'd imagine, especially considering they're doing 190 by the time they get to the end of it. Wheels in the grass for Leo is not going to help him slow down, and Togo takes away 7th.
He stays nice and tight down on the bottom of the racetrack. Turn number 1 is such a long corner. It's easy to kind of forget how long that thing really goes on, and you kind of release some of that steering angle and you find yourself off of the racing line, but it feeds you directly into what is that turn 2 and 3 complex. Checking back here on the number 28 of Kurt Clapper, he's making his way through the field currently, doing a nice job at it.
All that practice passing has actually paid off because he's still up 5 from where he started, despite actually putting a qualifying time in, and he's got Tobias Harnby just in front of him, so could snatch up another one here. All depends on if he can get a little bit closer than this. But instead, we're going to go look at Cam Porter, who I know had a bit of a spin a little bit earlier. We didn't see it on camera, but He's fallen back to 25th. He's currently chasing George Maurice.
Even though that you said he's got a spin and he fell back positions, he's actually up 2 from where he started. So maybe a little bit of positive attitude now needs to be behind the helmet, behind the visor of the 27, knowing that he's got the speed. He can go up there and make those passes. And like we just saw, he's actually got a group of cars directly in front of him, George Maurice and Alan Graham.
That car you saw off to the side, that was Micheletti. Morrow was lapped down, so he's not racing them for position, just trying to stay out of the way. All right, back to more fun in this top 10 battle. This time, though, it is Nicola Kaki leading a whole bunch of them. Tixier, Hisada is in there. They're coming down into turn 1. They've each got a nice pull on the other. And for Seb Tixier, he's willing to make the move. Looks down to the inside, coming into San Donato. He's going to be able to take the apex away. But the question is, will he be fully passed? Because as we said, up to the first set of S's now, almost 3 wide. Togo Hisada doing Togo things.
Togo definitely thought about it, and here's the over-under from Nicola Kaki, who's going to try to get to driver's right, but that's going to be the wrong side of the racetrack leading into the second switchback. Can he hang tough there? Yes, he does. A little bit of sideways there at apex. It's going to allow Togo Hisada the run on the outside, but lifts out of the gas at the right time to avoid contact.
Yeah, you can't always count on that driver ahead knowing that you're going to be there. I think that was a smart move in that situation. The door was closing. Look behind them, though. Sequeiro, Trangere, Kundalis, the more they fight, the more they are backing up to an army.
This is going to be a really interesting front straightaway if it stays this tight. Nicola showing the nose in this very, very small brake zone and actually kind of put Seb on the back foot. He's able to charge in there quite nicely, but you see the wag of the tail coming out and affects the exit speed. Kaki once again down to the inside, but Tixier able to fend him off.
Seb really taking a huge wide entry down into the corner. They can open it up as far as they like, as long as they don't get that slowdown penalty for being outside the track limits. And apparently he's figured out a little bit more a place to try and carry that speed than some of the others. But what about the speed down the main straight? Will Seb still be in 5th by the end of the pit straightaway? Now they start to pick up speed, already 160 before they hit the line.
I was noticing 174 miles an hour from Seb Tixier as they cross start finish. There goes Nicola Kaki. He's almost going to be clear by the time they even finish the turn 1 brake zone. Seb Tixier fights back, rolling the speed down through the shallow part of the corner and now gets on the gas. Very nicely done from Tixier. I thought Nicola Kaki was going to be able to hang on to it.
Yeah, very good into those first few corners, because that's where he took it last time through. On board with Togo Hisada now behind Nicola Kaki. This is going to be difficult because now Nicola is going to have to focus forward and backwards. Also worth mentioning, Kundalis managed to get by Trangere at turn 1.
Diving down the hill here to that it's going to grip up the car and shoot you out up over. Oh no, we got problems. Seb Tixier just went off all by himself. He's going to make contact as he spins back across the racing surface.
Oh, he collected somebody with him. I'm trying to figure out, I think that was Sequeiro. Yeah, it was. Leo, and the wheel is off of his wagon. It is not working. He is going to have to take a tow. That's pretty much his day over unless he gets out for just a few laps at the end after repairs. Back to Jorge Nieva, who was in front of him before. He's stuck with Topi Cortinimi, trying to get back into that podium position. Now, we saw a whole bunch of cars fighting one another down the main straight. What about just 2? Will this work out for Jorge?
It's been a duel for the last handful of laps. So Nieva's right in the slipstream, 180 miles an hour. Finally pops out 185, 188 miles an hour before he jumps on the brakes. And unfortunately, turn number 1, San Donato, is just such a long corner that typically Topi Cortinimi is able to roll through it nicely. It puts him on the wrong side, but right here in turn number 3, can actually roll through the apex, get the gas down, and Nieva just is actually close. Here we go into turn number 5 here. This is another opportunity.
And at the inside, tries to cut back around the other way to see if he could get the launch coming up towards Casanova. Well, he does get better speed. It's too short of a straightaway. Back down the hill, they head towards the Arrabbiatas, where it's going to once again climb. Both of them squiggling as they get back on the power.
This next corner at the exit is where Tixier had his problems the last lap. All that he did was get out too wide right here, dip a left side into the grass, and spun down to the inside. So I think that these drivers constantly pushing the limit, trying to find whatever grip that they can, and it can all slip away very quickly.
Kurt Clapper versus Kevin Verbruggen. Remember, Kevin unfortunately losing control a little early, winding up falling all the way down here to just into the top 20. Kurt up 6 right now, and then Juan Rodriguez right behind them, up 18. I think he's our hardest charger currently.
I think so. Sorry,
Jason Clapper is, yeah.
Jason Clapper is actually up into 15th, and he's up 21 positions. But you're right, honorary mention of that number 22 of Juan Rodriguez, who's sitting directly behind Kurt Clapper in that white car. He's actually up plus 18 positions. So you're right, Joe. He's having a great run, as well as Thomas Willershausen back in 24th.
Coming down through the final turn once again. All of them trying to line up this exit. Verbruggen leading everybody onto the main straight. Can't go too far off to the side. You can get a slowdown penalty there coming off of that final corner, and definitely don't want to pick up those incident points. Meanwhile, back up at the front, Jorge Nieva just making sure that Topi Korteniemi cannot relax.
We've clicked through this thing pretty good. I mean, working 8 laps to go or so. We're already past halfway, so that fight in the middle of the pack there, or I should say in the middle of the top 10, was pretty fierce and thick through the majority of the mid-pack of this race. And ooh, Topi was actually a little bit wide there in turn number 9, that second Arrabbiata corner. Just slipping up, allowing that number 4 to close it in that little bit more.
Yeah, earlier we were talking about somebody having the gold leaf livery. This is traditionally more what you would have seen in this era, which is the nation's colors on the cars, which is what we've got with the number 2. It's always the easiest. Finland's is literally just their flag put onto the car.
Easy to remember, and typically the Finnish drivers dominate these open wheel series a little bit more over in the 79s than over here in the 49s, as we see Jason Clapper making another move here on the racetrack. He's trying to get by Robert Plumley. Looks like he does that successfully up at the top of the hill.
So that'll move him into P14. Plumley probably just trying to bring this one home. Is actually up 7 himself despite losing that position. Oh boy, here comes Togo Asada once more. I love when he has got the bit between his teeth, because he's going to get another spot, and he rarely takes no for an answer. Togo with an aggressive but fair move.
So we'll see what kind of pace he's got now, right? He's got about 3 seconds between himself and Nieva up the road, so nobody to really check him up. No lap cars on the horizon, at least that I see for Togo Hisada. I think that 2.8, 3 seconds is a pretty big gap to make up in only 7 laps, but we'll see what he can do.
Yep, it's taken a lot of work just to get to back to here when he started this race in 3rd. So a bit of a loss there. Don Peak didn't get to set a time in qualifying, but he's up 15, so he's also gained a ton of spots, and he's working on Johannes Brouwer right now. Takes a look to the inside. Also, I can tell you, he was very proud of this this Lifesavers paint concept that he put on the car, and I have to say it's easy to identify, so I appreciate it.
It kind of gives me throwbacks to my dad, Charlie Attenborough. He always loved the roll of Lifesavers, and I remember in the race trailer, I could always find one in a cabinet somewhere.
Sounds awesome. As he continues to try and stay close to the 34, we're going to get back up to the top of the field. Nick Lukaki chasing on Togo Hisada wants that position back, but Arturas Koundalis, we've been seeing more and more of him here in the 49s lately. Traditionally, he races in the IMSA Vintage Series in the the Audi 90 GTO, which surprisingly races somewhat similar to this car, just with four-wheel drive. Here we go from Kaki with a move down the outside, coming into San Donato, as we'll see if Hisada can hold him behind. It's going to be tough. Remember, you really need to finish the job here if you're going to hang around the outside, because they're coming back into the S's. They continue to go wheel to wheel. Big wobble from both of them as it switches back and forth. Who can get the throttle down?
Nicola did a nice job to hang out, force himself on driver's left, which gives him the advantage right here. Togo Hisada, though, is right up next to the axle. There goes Kaki with the acceleration phase, and here comes Koundelis, the lime green car. He's going to force the nose down there into the hill, but Togo Hisada remains strong. Koundelis is going to have to find a new way.
And this is bringing along Ove Trengrade as well. We've seen this a lot in this race, where the stacks of cars just start to form as soon as they start battling. That was a big slide from Togo Hisada, but Koundelis still unable to do anything with it. Meanwhile, Ove looking to try and set this one up. He's cutting back underneath, but he didn't get the run.
I think the dark horse is this lime green machine of Koundelis. So we didn't get to see it early on, but he was up inside the top 5. And he just made that self-mistake at this corner that they're coming up to, turn number 15, and it just put him so far on the back foot that he's had to make all these passes to regain that track position. So if I'm looking at a car that's maybe out of position as Togo Hisada now makes the mistake in turn number 15, I'm looking towards this lime green car to keep moving forward.
He might right here. He's going to have the outside down into turn 1. It's a drag race, and Togo's got a little bit more momentum as he starts to edge forward. With him on the inside, this could give him that spot right back. They both break as deep as they dare into San Donato, but Koundelis is hanging tough, but not tough enough. He finally falls back in line.
I'm going to put my tinfoil hat on talking about turn number 15, because I think that's the corner that we've seen the most amount of mistakes in so far. And it's relatively, call it medium to high speed going in there, and it's such a long corner. Joe, I just wonder if these drivers are trying to roll as much speed in the first half of the corner, and they just kind of roll too much sometimes.
Yeah, that's true. Could be what causing what we've been seeing. So many just sending it in too hard. Let's watch this time as they're coming around to it pretty soon here, with Kaki still at the front of this group. They haven't been able to catch up to Jorge Nieva ahead, who's still battling with Kortsiniemi. So it's pretty much these drivers all amongst each other instead of trying to catch up to the front. Let's check in with Ove Trengrade here at the back of the group.
The caboose on this 4-car train, huge gap of 11 seconds back to Laust Olsen. So these 4 drivers can really just kind of focus on themselves and this battle at hand. Big gap up front, big gap behind. So they really are kind of on their own playground. So this is coming up to that corner that I was just talking about, turn number 15 at the top of the hill here, and then it starts to dive downwards as you get progressively through this corner. And it was actually Kaki that was maybe the slowest going in that time, trying to focus on the exit, but Hisada, Koundelis, plenty close.
Togo's got a really good chance on this one, but once again, Nicola is going to take the obvious choice of defending down to the inside. He's got to watch out because Koundelis is really gaining fast, but he runs out of straightaway once again. Hisada, long way around. That leaves him vulnerable. Here comes Arturas Koundelis, maybe trying to fill that gap so that he can't get back in there. He's going to have a great run. Could he make it 3 wide? Not quite, but he does get by Togo Hisada, who had a bobble. The battle is not yet over. They have more of them coming down in. No, he's looking for more. He tries to dive up the inside of Nicola Kaki. Arturas Koundelis, he wants more always.
Great racecraft from that number 9 car, and you see he continues to pressure forward even after he got by Togo Hisada. It's showing me that he's got the speed, he's got the mindset, he's always showing the nose, trying to force that driver, whoever's in front of him, that little bit off of the racing line. It didn't work right there at turn number 8 against Nicola Kaki, so I bet you it's going to be another one of those moves, setting him up through 15, using that slipstream. But when you got 4 cars stacked so close to each other, you saw that 3rd car in line really gain that momentum. I wouldn't count Togo Hisada out of this one by any means.
He's surely going to try and make a move to get back there if he sees any opportunity. I mentioned Koundelis usually racing the Audi GTO over an IMSA Vintage. It's a car that has a lot of straight line speed and very long braking zones. So you get a lot of practice knowing you got to hit those binders very early compared to most modern cars. And I'm sure that's definitely helping out the 9 driver as he tries to set up the exit once again, but he's not nearly as close.
Not nearly as close, but I look at the gap between him and Togo Asada, and he kind of rubber band it away from Hisada, which means a great exit. And here we go at the point that he needs it, using that slipstream, going to the right of Kaki here. Togo Asada going to be brave on the left side. Can he get the car stopped? It might be Ove Trangrade taking advantage.
Multiple cars driving all over the back of Nicola Kaki, and yet he somehow holds them off. Credit to the 8 car. I mean, he's been doing fantastic now that he's gotten up to the point on this one of holding back a lot of clearly fast drivers.
I still think that the speed all comes from that green number 9 car right now, and he's just being very, very patient about it. He's not trying to force an issue. I mentioned that he's trying to show the nose in some odd areas, but he's not trying to force a pass. All he's trying to do is get in that head of the driver in front of him, maybe try to force him into a little bit of a mistake, but I do think that Koundelis is probably the fastest of this group.
It's not got much time to try and use it, though, because we're about to get the white flag, or excuse me, no, the 2 to go signal for Andres Valenteves, who's only leading by about a second over Zamaloa, so he's not exactly run away from everything. Johannes Brouwer, who was under attack before, is under attack by another car. Who is this he is battling with? Looks like Willershausen, who briefly gets through and is going to have to try and continue the battle up and across the hill here through the S's once again. The 34 of Brouwer back ahead of him as it'll switch back to the left-hander of Matarasi once again. And he'll take that position back.
See that lifesaver car of Don Peak trying to get in the action as well, with those 2 cars kind of battling it out directly in front of him. But here comes this draft battle between Kaki, Koundelis, Hisada, Trangrade. Let's see who's going to get brave. Koundelis out to the left side of Kaki in the brake zone for turn number 1. It's the battle of the lime greens, but then Togo Asada tries to roll the apex speed, put that number 6 right there, driver's right of Koundelis.
He knows every time that Arturis tries to make a move, it's going to open the door for him, but he just can't get his foot over the threshold. Meanwhile, Ove Trangrade also watching behind them, knowing both of them could give him a position very easily if he just times himself right. Not going to happen this time through. They've only got one more run down into turn 1 next lap.
Ooh, and I tell you what, Trangrade got a little bit out of shape coming down the downhill on the brakes right there. Almost got into the back of Togo in that white and red number 6 car. So we've been talking about Kaki, Koundelis, and Hisada. We haven't said Trangrade's name a whole lot. He's really just kind of been the caboose on this train. Maybe he's just waiting for that right opportunity.
Remember, Ove's one of the drivers that has a championship here in the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legends Series, so he is no slouch. It's just we've had a lot more drivers come in the past couple years, and so it's been a lot harder for him to take wins. In fact, I'll have to check and see when the last time he did have a win was, because it's been a moment since we've seen him on the top step, but running 8th with the number 13 on his car, he clearly hasn't lost too much pace.
I think this right here, Joe, is where the fireworks are going to erupt. This is the last time down the front straightaway, and crucially, Nicola Kaki got a monster exit. He did exactly what he needs to do, but is Hisada close enough to Koundelis?
It's going to be close. They'll pick up speed, hit the brakes coming down into the first corner. They got a lapped car trying to stay out of the way. Sees all this action coming and says, I want no part of this. Koundelis will hold on to 6, trying to catch up to Nicola Kaki. Since turn 1 has been the place, what can he do from here, Joey?
I don't know. We check in on Laust Olsen, I believe, making a pass here on Jason Clapper. Actually, no, this is the other way around. Jason is making his way up through the field. Going to get one more spot, move him up inside of the top 10 as Laust Olsen fights back now.
Glad to see Laust is not going to roll over for this one. They're going to come back to another left-right sequence. He'll send it in a little bit deeper. Clapper has to give way.
Tremendous run from Jason Clapper, always one of our biggest movers, and today is no different. This driver right here, though, Valenteus, you had mentioned that Oye Zamaloa had closed in that gap, but I think that throughout this last lap and a half has been able to extend it back out safely, 1.3 seconds, and he's got one turn remaining.
I think we've mentioned it, but Mick Claridge did DNF today early on, apparently. Not sure if he got caught up in that opening wreck that we saw, which means Valenteus will strike back and strike hard as he takes another win, this time at Mugello.
Nicely driven from that number one car. I think that Nieva is not be able to drag race Cortignani to the line. It's all going to come from that four-pack. There you see third place goes to Topi, but Kundelis right on the back of Nicola Kaki. Can he get him before the line? Nicola going back and forth. Nicola hangs on for the fifth place finish.
0.03 of a second separating them at the line. That was as tight as you like. Laust Olsen, great defense on that last lap. I mean, clearly, when you're up against Jason Clapper, you're going to have your work cut out for you, but that will get him ninth. Clapper up 26 spots in the end. Not too shabby.
Biggest mover of the day for sure as we watch the rest of the field come stream through turn number 15 here and use that sprint straight away down there and finish today's race. 19 laps is what everybody is going to be doing. There goes Kurt Clapper, another one of our big movers today.
Will permit me a little bit of bias here. Don Peak up 17 spots. This is a really good day for him. Starting from actually last on the field here. Going to be finishing almost halfway up it, just behind Brower. Was not quite able to get by him, it looks like, but had a lot of cars behind him here at the end.
Well, Joe, at least we know that somebody in the Peak family has got some speed on the racetrack.
We are going to have to get a sim race in at some point then here, Joey, because I seem to recall that you're not one to be talking. Anyways,
no.
We are going to go through our finishing results as Andres Valenteus will take the win. Oya Zamaloa is going to finish in second. Topi Cortinemi will be P3. You've got Jorge Nieva in fourth, followed by Nicola Kaki, getting a top five and working hard for it. Arturas Kundelis was P6 and Toga Hisada 7th. Then it's Ove Trangerade in P8, followed by Laust Olsen in 9th. And as we mentioned, Jason Clapper all the way to the top 10.
Raul Guardia here in 11th place position with Bill Tyler finishing exactly where he qualified in 12th. Robert Plumley in 13th place, did a nice job up 9 positions. Kevin Verbruggen had that little bit of an incident on the opening lap, slipped back to 14th here. Steve Morris with the top 15 finish. Marcos Delgado 16th. Kirk Clapper up 7 to finish in 17th. Tobias Harnvey 18th. Matthew Maudsley 19th. And then Cam Porter, after having that little bit of a mistake, was able to rebound up to 20th.
Alan Graham was 21st. You've got Johannes Brower 22nd. Don Peak up to P23 today. Andre Bruno 24th, followed by Thomas Willershausen in the 25th spot. Then it's Jonathan Jourdain in the 26th as Ben Summers finishes 27th. Last one on the lead lap was Fernando de la Fuente in 28th. Mauro Micheletti, as we mentioned, a couple laps down, 29th, and Mats Linden in 30th. And then Bjorn Ackerman actually did not DNF. It looked like for a moment he wasn't going to rejoin, but he did get back out on track. And from there, unfortunately, it was all DNFs for the rest of the field. So a lot of drivers collected by this one, unfortunately. And have to say, I said it at the start and I still stick by it. I think this is almost the perfect track for this kind of car, Joey.
It was interesting watching the racing here because typically at Mugello, you see all of the action, call it in turn number 1. And sure, we had a few passes in turn number 1, but I specifically looked at the other side of the racetrack. Sector 3 is where we had a lot of the problems, call it. Seb Tixier going off at the top of the hill in between turns 9 and 10, and then multiple cars. I want to say maybe even 5, 6, 7 cars making that mistake down there in turn 15, costing everybody positions.
Looks like we've got our third place finisher, Topi Kortiniemi, who we saw really had to be on the defense here today. Topi, congratulations on a top 3, but it looked like Jorge Nieva was making you work for it.
Yeah, it was very tough to defend from him. Good attacks from him, and a good race.
Most of the fights, most of the passes we saw were into turn 1. Was that kind of the only realistic place to make a pass here, or did you have to worry about anywhere else?
I don't know, maybe if the other guy makes a mistake or takes a slowdown, like our friend Jorge did. I could see maybe, because there's so many lines to the most of the corners, you could really dive into the fast S's in the sector 2, or I don't know, the last carousel turn before the fast chicane. Maybe you can take some of the different lines, so it's easy to send it here if you really want to and can.
I think that's what makes this place so interesting. Well, we're also really glad to have you back in the 49s once again. You going to return for any more of these races?
I don't know if anytime soon. I just got to race this one on a short notice, had some practice, and decided that's good enough to race, so why not? It's a good track.
Well, it gave us some fun to watch you out there. Again, congratulations on a top 3.
Thanks, Joe.
Podium finish for Topi Kortiniemi, who was followed home by Nicola Kaki. I believe Joey's caught up with our 5th place finisher.
Yeah, Nicola Kaki, first of all, congrats on the top 5 finish, and I'm seeing 3/100ths of a second you finished in front of Arturus today.
Yeah. Hi, guys. Can you hear me well?
Yep, we got you loud and clear.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, usually I never come to the booth for the interview if I'm not on the podium, but I saw what came on the before me, and I thought it was a good idea to stop by.
I think that you were in the thick of it, so definitely go back and watch the broadcast, because your 4-pack between yourself, Hisada, Kundelis, Trangrade, for a while there, Tixier, it was the battle to watch. How did you feel being able to kind of hang on to the front, but having so many in your mirror?
Yeah, I feel stressed, that's for sure. But it's always, I'm very happy when I'm able to fight a very hard, clean fight without causing any issues, because I've been cursed in the past. So I'm really happy when it doesn't happen. So I really enjoy it, even if I was really stressed. And on this track is a little deceptive, if you ask me, because it's a very technical track, so you really have to be super precise on the exits. You don't have to use too much of the tires otherwise you're gonna overheat the hell out of it. But it's kinda easy to follow a car in front, because you have this very long straight. This car punch a very big hole in the air, so you have a lot of tow, and it's you can gain. Only because of the tow, I think you can gain a couple of tenths, maybe even 3 or 4, depending on your pace generally. So when I saw the other guy going away from me, and I saw behind me there was very packed a few cars there, I already knew that it was going to be a battle for the whole race, because I didn't have the pace to get away from them. So they were going to be very easily stuck to my back, and I tried to work a little bit in the first part of the race to try to get the guy ahead. But when I saw it was too late, I just tried to defend my position, and it was very, very, very fun thing to do today, at least.
Well, next week is going to be Montreal, so you kept mentioning the draft, the slipstream. It's going to be very similar in all those straightaways, being able to kind of attach the fishing line to whoever's in front of you. But congrats on the top 5 today. We look forward to seeing you next week, Nicola. Is there anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Sure, I want to give a shout to the whole community, to my guy Seb, which was very very unlucky today. I'm laughing, but I'm not laughing inside. And it's I just want to say this is amazing to see this grid with this talented driver in the Grand Prix Legend again. It's even if I will not see any podium very soon, I don't care. It's just an amazing, competitive and fair situation here. It's I think it's one it's probably one of the best version I ever dream of. So it's a pleasure to race with this guy, and see you next time.
That was Nicola Kaki driving the number 8 car today, finishing with a top 5 finish.
All right, and then a driver who finished in the top half, 20th, was Cam Porter. But I think more critically, Cam, I saw that you had a front row seat to that opening wreck. Can you tell us a little bit about what happened there?
Oh, well, I was really lucky to get through there. Obviously, I saw stuff going down, and I just tried to squeeze to the right and slow down a little bit. Yeah, just barely squeezed through that. Thankfully, was able to survive and had a pretty fun race in the first half with a couple other fellas. Unfortunately, I was having a good go with George Maurice, but as soon as he passed me, he spun out. So that after that, the race was a little bit boring until the end, and Alan Graham was pressuring me in the last couple of laps. So good race, guys. Had a good time today.
Yeah, so it wasn't a perfect one. I think you had an off or two out there. Where would you rate this track in terms of difficulty? Because we heard Topi say that it is a technical one.
I don't think it's particularly any more difficult than any other track, really. I kind of skipped Mugello last week because I just wasn't feeling it. I wasn't feeling all that great. And then this week I saw it was Mugello, and I enjoy this track. Oh my gosh, it's a big grip. That's first time seeing it. But anyway, yeah, I was able to squeeze through that, thankfully. But this track, I enjoy it. And I think it has good flow, and I just have to abuse the runoff areas a little more, I think, to find some speed.
Yeah, it's always one of those things, figuring out where that limit is. But the limit's going to be a little bit more definitive when we go off to Montreal for the next race. Are you looking forward to Canada?
Oh, yeah. Well, obviously, that's kind of my home track. I have been there in real life to, not to see a race, but, I visited Montreal once, and I walked around the track, and that was pretty neat to see and experience it. So, yeah, I always look forward to Montreal.
All right, understandable. I'm kind of jealous. I'd love to get to that one myself. But again, congratulations on a 20th place.
Thanks, guys. Looking forward to see the broadcast.
It was Cam Porter, who's going to wrap up our interviews. And we want to give a big thank you to the Lotus 49 community in the meantime for bringing us back for another season of coverage. Also, thanks to the team today, Joey, Daniel, Christian, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media website and a merchandise store, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment. Like we said, it is off to Circuit Gilles Villeneuve for the next one. That'll be Saturday, February 22nd at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. But we've got more races coming up today, including the IMSA Vintage Series going off to good old Silverstone at noon Eastern. Be sure to check out all our other broadcasts we've got listed here. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.